For our pitches, we'll have Lucid VR, Realities.io, Bioflight VR, Meta VR, and Vivid Vision. All very interesting companies with innovative things going on. And we'll have feedback from Tipatat Chennavasin. Oh, man. Oh, I got it right this time. That's very good. He's a partner of the Virtual Reality Fund, investing in VR and AR companies. Venture. Oh, okay. I got that wrong. Okay, excellent. Venture Reality Fund. Dylan Flinn was with Rothenberg Ventures, instrumental in the River program, and Tim Chang from Mayfield Fund. Is that correct? All right, excellent. So without further ado, let's get things started. I believe our first is Lucid VR. So let's give them a warm welcome to the stage.
Hey everyone, not as tall as you. All right. Hi, my name is Joe Hill. I'm with Lucid VR, the world's first stereoscopic 3D 180 degrees camera for VR. How many people are actually from California? How many people from the US? And elsewhere? The problem of distance is quite evident with long distance relationships. They've plagued and dulled relationships long over time. Now, a quarter of a billion people in the world actually suffer this in a structural sense. Expats, transplants, people that are moving from another location and living in a totally new environment. And their relationships are strained with this type of new experience in a new reality. Now, people are trying to recreate and enrich their relationships that are now long distance with virtual reality and trying to make 2D experiences suffice for their relationship. Now, that just doesn't do, because it takes a lot of content creation for people to be able to really connect to their others in other locations. Now, so in the VR space, it takes a lot of money and time for you to create VR content together. Also, it takes a lot of data and size of files for you to create 360 content. Also, in terms of production, I don't know how to use a stitching software. Most people don't. And when you create virtual reality content, it's actually quite painful to stitch a bunch of lines together and make it perfect. Lastly, a lot of the platforms out there where you can upload these more immersive experiences aren't there yet to really experience and understand the true virtual reality experience. So enter 20-plus hour process. This is quite time-consuming for you to create immersive experience to connect to those loved ones in other locations. Enter Lucid VR. Here's the Lucid Cam, which captures 180-degree 3D stereoscopic content. So it's mimicking the technology of your eyes to calibrate, stitch content on board between the two cameras. So this alleviates the pain of content creation, of stitching. The file sizes with 180, it actually has 80 megabytes per minute recorded, which means much faster downloads and much more potential for viral VR. So what makes this different? If you look in the top left corner, you'll see the professional space really kind of dominating the 3D area and wanting that extra level of immersion. In the bottom right quadrant, you'll see the consumer level, where there's more 360 and a consumer grade price point, but not necessarily 3D. So we are nestled nicely in the top right corner, which makes us different, where we can have a higher level of immersion with 3D, but also that consumer grade price point for consumers to adopt. So at Lucid VR, we have our co-founders with Han and Adam, who have extensive background in startups, including Y Combinator in the military. And our team, we actually have an in-house production team called Lucid Studios that develops content with major retailers on a B2B side, and the rest of the engineering and marketing team as well. So we're looking to go to market this year with Q4 production ramp-up. We've had a crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo. We've partnered with a top 5 Taiwanese ODM Wistron and other major retailers to develop content. We're also looking for partnerships in terms of VR content creators, types of VR products where we can distribute and really create a full service of products with our camera. So as everyone's seen this graph before, the future of VR is vast. And what we're looking to do is start with 180, scaling to 360, and really disrupting the AR space and eventually going into other sensory types of applications where we're not only disrupting the visual component of immersive media, but also the other senses, touch, smell, sound, feeling, and making teleportation a reality. Because we're not just disrupting communication, but we're really making telepresence a real thing. Thank you so much.
Hi, Joe. No, we've talked a couple of times now. Great job on the presentation. Just a couple questions. What is the price point of the Lucid?
Sure. So right now it's open for pre-orders, $399, and we'll likely go to a retail price point of $500, which is the cheapest 3D option out there now.
So I think one of the things, Samsung today announced that the Gear 360. Samsung today announced that the Gear 360 is going to be $350 available for sale this week. The Theta has been available for a while, $399 price point. And you mentioned it's 2D versus 3D, but they do 360 and you only do 180. Sure. I'd like for you to talk about kind of what do you feel like are the preferred use cases for 2D or for 3D 180 over 2D 360?
Sure. Yeah. So we've seen where you need a certain level of depth, where people really want to feel like they're there, where there's more of an emotional connection. If you're looking from the consumer angle, saying like your IDOs in VR, you don't want to have a flat experience and really kind of feel like an arm's length type of experience. But anything that's more emotional, I think, would be a play for the consumer side, and then in small businesses and larger businesses, if they're looking to get more, have some kind of depth with, let's say orthopedic surgery to anything that I need to know how far it is away. From VR in cars or bikes, where you need to really kind of feel like you're moving. I would say that's where another space could be.
So standalone device plays are sometimes hard longer term. Is there a subscription or cloud or premium software or I don't know, community network, media kind of play in there as well?
Yeah. So we actually have an app out that you can look at all our content. It's called Lucid App. It's in the iOS and Android store, and you can upload your content. As I was saying with the platform play, currently YouTube and Facebook don't have the greatest 3D playback, and they'll get there, and we're not going to really necessarily, aim to heavily compete on that space, but you'll be able to upload and have a 3D playback in high quality, calibrated, synced content on our app. Lucid App, and so you can subscribe to premium content there.
I think making content creation more accessible for the market is a key pain point for VR right now, and not until that happens will VR be ready for the masses. So it's good to see you guys working on this. My biggest concern is the smartphone market, and we're going to see 3D cameras enter the smartphone market, and I think the market will bifurcate in high-end devices, high-end capture, and then low-end, and then the low-end will be done with the smartphones that we're all carrying in our pocket and paying for. How do you view the market and your position in it when we can start capturing 3D, 360 content from our phones?
Sure. So right now, in terms of physics, where the size of sensors, if you look at Google Project Tango, the way that they have gotten into a traditional size type of a device, they have had to scale it out to a tablet format. And once our sensors go down, we'll be able to integrate into phones and things of that nature. So that is definitely in the roadmap. I think what would differentiate us would be, having the faster calibration on board the phone, and that's proprietary. And so if, we could also license that to phone manufacturers down the line, if we were to partner with other phone distributors with a 3D cam.
Awesome. And if someone wants a Lucid camera, where do they go right now to get one?
You can go to lucidcam.com and reach out to me. My name is Joe Hill. I'll be around. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lucid. Next up, realities.io. Let's welcome to the stage.
Hey, can I grab this? Hey,
You got a mic up there.
I just wanted to stay. Okay. Thanks. Hi, everyone. Before I introduce myself and the company, I have one question for the whole audience, and that is, who of you has always wanted to do a tour around the whole world but never could? That's awesome. That's a lot of potential customers right there. We're Realities.io, and we're building the platform for virtual reality, for photorealistic virtual reality environments. And the question I just asked actually shows a problem. Most of the time, people just don't have the time to go on large travels, or they don't have the money. There's another part of the population that just can't do any travel at all. They're physically unable. They might not be able to walk up 1,000 steps to Machu Picchu, for example. And I think, and my team thinks, and a lot of people in this building think that virtual reality is the solution for this problem. Hi everyone, my name is Dominik Escoffier. I'm the CEO of Realities.io, and I'm a huge virtual reality enthusiast. Ever since I tried the original duct-taped prototype in 2012 of the Oculus Rift, I became a believer. I really think that virtual reality will disrupt existing industries. And one of these industries will be tourism. Tourism is a huge industry. It's a $2.4 trillion industry each year. So people are spending a lot of money to actually travel around the world and see the sights that virtual reality, that reality has to offer. So how do we come in? At Realities, we're scanning real places with photogrammetry, which is a mathematical process to capture real places and put them into a 3D model, a really highly photorealistic model. What all of this means is true photorealism. And bear with me, I know you guys have heard that a couple of times. All of us are enthusiasts for technology, because photorealism has been touted a lot of times before. This is a screenshot of Unreal made in 1997, and people back then thought this was photorealistic. But I'm not joking, it's really happening now. Why now, you might ask? The answer is easy. With the processing power that modern GPUs offer, and also the systems like NVIDIA's CUDA, for example, or OpenCL from AMD, those are things that help us process much, much faster and allows us to really put photorealism into our scenes. I'm completely serious. And because a photo is worth 1,000 words, I'm going to show you a photo of one of the scenes that we've scanned. This is a place in Germany, and this is a photo. What you see now is a screenshot out of the Realities app. But just as a photo is worth 1,000 words, a video is worth 1,000 photos. Like I said, this is true photorealism. And you can experience it today at our booth at the show floor. So what photogrammetry does is preserves places one-to-one. And there's another company or another nonprofit organization that one-to-one preservation is really, really important for, and that's the Global Heritage Fund. We've been working together with them to go into the jungle of Guatemala to scan this, which you'll also be able to see in virtual reality today. This is a part of a much larger structure in the middle of the jungle. It's called El Mirador in Guatemala, and this is the place we scan. It's just a tiny little piece of the whole thing. Right now it looks more like this. So how do you even get there? For a real traveler, you have to go through the jungle for 2 days, and that's what my co-founder David does. Please excuse the grumpy look. That's what you look like after you did that, fighting off mosquitoes. He looks a little bit better right here. So we really have a rockstar VR team. I myself actually quit my job at Rockstar Games to go all in with virtual reality. David's an archaeologist by trade. He knows how to scan places and preserve them with millimeter accuracy for generations to come. And our third co-founder is Daniel Sproul. He's been working with virtual reality even before the Oculus Rift was announced as a UX lead designer. He's been doing some amazing stuff. He's a really, really smart guy, and I couldn't be any more proud of working with him. Combined, we have over 10 years of VR experience. So I've put a lot of big words on this screen: cultural heritage, photorealism, preservation, access to these sites. And I ask all of you to come by and check out the demo, the Realities demo we have at the show floor, because a VR experience is worth 1,000 videos. Thank you so much.
That was a great presentation. I do think this is key to increasing retention and make sure we all come back to our headsets on a daily basis, as opposed to just letting them store in some cabinet. So that's amazing. Can you talk a little bit more about the capture process and the hardware side, what it takes to scan, how long, what's the cost model for it?
Sure. So photogrammetry actually uses a single lens camera. So from a smartphone to a high-end DSLR, you can use any of those. The better result obviously comes from a high-end DSLR. And what you do is you take lots of pictures from different angles. In average, we have about 150 to 300 photos that we take of a place or a room. And then we put that through our automated pipeline. And actually, the community can do that as well. So the community can take pictures of a place that they want to scan, something cool in their neighborhood, maybe their favorite bar, they want to hang out with friends, and they can upload those photos to our website. We put it through the pipeline and put it onto realities. And then you can share these environments with friends. So for example, if you want to hang at the pyramids with your buddies or in that favorite bar you always were in college, then you can just scan that place, upload it, and have a social experience on realities.
What is that workflow like? Can anybody do that, or does that have to almost be sort of professionally done?
We're working on a tutorial series to educate people on how to take the photogrammetry photos. It's not a super complicated process, but it requires you to cover all surfaces in the room from at least 2 angles. So that's one thing that people have to keep in mind when they're doing photogrammetry photos. But apart from that, all they have to do is just upload it to our service, and we're putting it through a photogrammetry pipeline to get to a really good result, similar to the one you just saw on the screen.
So would you consider competitors like, or would you consider companies like Neuralize doing the ray tracing approach more like competitive, or is that an alternative?
Neuralize are doing amazing things. Mm-hmm. Scott Metzger is a mastermind when it comes to putting out really high-end stuff. Mm-hmm. But he's also putting in a lot of manual work. So he's doing retopologizing by hand. He's manually aligning all the camera pictures. And that is, while it gives a very good experience, it's just not scalable on a larger scale. Mm-hmm. That's actually what we're working at, is optimizing the workflow so much that you can put in photos on one side and get the VR-ready model on the other side. And it still gives a very good experience as opposed to what Scott Metzger at Neuralize does, which just requires more manual work and is not as scalable as what we are doing.
How do you get the depth information around the objects? Is that
the depth information is actually reconstructed from the original images.
Got it.
So you use, for example, just 2 images from 2 different angles. And with epipolar geometry, you can reconstruct the original camera positions, and from the information in the image and the knowledge of the camera position, you can essentially triangulate points in 3D space. That's how the basics work.
Got it. Okay.
Great presentation. Yeah, I'm kind
Thanks,
of curious. For me, a lot of this isn't just about access and trying to recreate reality, but going beyond reality and layering on top of it. And I'd love for you to talk. I mean, I've done the app and I've seen a little bit hints of that, and I'd love to see, like, big picture. Where do you want to take it? What do you think are the right applications? Is it just walking around and like taking selfies, or how do you feel it evolving?
It's probably a mixture of tourism and also a social experience with your friends. So if you're going on a travel, you probably want to share this with other people. So that's a large part where we see just essentially being able to scan a place, put it into VR, and hang out there with your friends would be really amazing. And on top of that, we want to create an experience that's even larger than the tourism experience you would have. So for example, we have in our app a German castle, which you can visit, and then on top of just the basic scan, you have pieces flyers lying around which you can pick up, and then use those for an audio tour. So as soon as you pick that up, an audio tour starts telling you a little bit more about the places. You have interactive overlays where when you look at the surrounding countrysides, you see the names of the towns, the names of the mountains. And we're planning other things like, for example, a virtual tour guide that's walking along with you, where you can record your own voice and your own movements with an HTC Vive, and then put that up on realities. And that's part of the monetization scheme as well. So people are able to send us scans. And if they want to put a price tag on that, we're going to do a rev share model with them, but they can also upload UGC content like a tour guide, for example, and say, offer that tour guide for, say, $1 or $2 or $3. And the cool thing for the customer is, or for the user, is that you can choose your own tour guide, more or less. So you want to have a humorous one, you're going to pay $1. You're going to have a scientific one, you're going to pay $2. That's how we monetize all that. All right, thanks.
I think in reality, it's well done. And next up, Bioflight VR. Let's give them a warm welcome to the stage.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for including us SVVR folks that are in the audience here. We're thrilled to be here. So for the next 4 minutes, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing at Bioflight and why we think it's important for the future of medicine. Our application will vastly improve the connected, immersive, and diagnostic way that specialists, surgeons, and radiologists interact with patient-specific scan data, and I'm going to show you a little bit about what we're doing here. So traditionally, this is how radiologists and surgeons diagnose patients. A lot of times it's black and white CT images that they shuffle through like a deck of cards looking for pathology. They're pretty good at it. Most of them, the good ones are really good at it, and this is often all they need, but there's a lot of patient abnormalities and things that come up inside of these diagnostic sessions, which we feel that VR can help improve markedly. So this is their version of 3D right now. Oh, there's the mic. The Windows 95 interface hurts my eyes, but this is their version of 3D. And at Bioflight, we think there's a better way for them to improve diagnostic accuracy by being inside of a 3D immersive stereoscopic environment. I'm just going to run a quick little video here while I talk to y'all. So for us at Bioflight, there's a couple of things that we're doing. How are we going to do this? How are we going to create it? We're developing a platform for diagnostics, but also for education and for learning. And people ask, why is a VR technology better than current technologies? We've been using those for 30 years. What's wrong with just doing it the same way? I think for anybody who hasn't experienced VR, and for any doctors or specialists who haven't spent time in a VR headset, they don't get it until they're inside. But for people that ask that question, why should we use this? I'm going to offer up our market validation and test case number 1 here. Google Cardboard saves baby's life. That's a great headline. So the story behind this is that there was a 3-month-old little girl who was born with 1 lung and half of a heart. And the doctors in her hometown had no idea how to treat her. So her parents were told to take her home, try to make her as comfortable as possible, and wait for her to die. So her parents obviously weren't happy with that diagnosis, and they sought out doctors who are using scanning technologies, 3D printing, and VR applications, and they were lucky enough to find one in Miami. So there was a surgeon in Miami who had experience using scan data in other new ways, and he got a scan of her heart, and they were able, with his team, to inside a Google Cardboard, find the abnormalities and finally identify what it was that was happening with this little girl's heart and come up with a surgical plan to help her. So in its simplest form, this is Bioflight VR. The idea that we can give these doctors and specialists a new tool for pushing the boundaries of what's possible in patient care and education and learning today. So up till now, medicine is delivered geographically. So where you live determines what kind of care you get in a general way. If you live in Poughkeepsie, the doctors in Poughkeepsie are looking at your scans and delivering medical expertise. We think that there should be a movement to the virtualization of medicine, and it's already happening, but we want to be part of the group that allows medical expertise to be shared on a global scale. So wherever you are receiving care doesn't determine the type of expertise that you have access to. And we want to be part of the group that's building out a collaborative, shared platform so that experts across the globe can be part of the same experience and can collaborate for diagnostic care and delivery. So when we talk to our doctors about what kind of problems this technology might solve 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, this is sort of the Star Trek version of how they do their job, but that's where we want to be. And it's important for us to think about how we can get ahead of the new imaging technologies, how we can incorporate shared experience in collecting the data from users inside of our platform so that they can inform and teach the next generation of residents. And I think the data farming part is a huge part of our platform, and it's the reason why this is not just another dumb terminal with a VR headset strapped to it for you to look at MR and CT data. So the Hippocratic Oath for doctors, it asks them to do no harm, but it also asks them to generously share what they've learned with others. And our hope is that Bioflight is a platform that will allow both to happen. Thanks, guys.
So can you talk a bit about the go-to-market? What's the way to get the solution into this field, given that it's pretty esoteric, IT departments and things at hospitals, clinics are somewhat unique, right?
Yeah, and everyone says, oh, so you've picked medicine, that's awesome. That is the toughest place for you to ever deploy a new product, just because of the FDA hurdles, HIPAA compliance, excuse me, all of that stuff. So for us, there's a reason why we're focused not only on a diagnostic product that is a clinical enterprise application, but the idea of it being both a patient-facing and a resident-facing, a new doctor ecosystem, is that it gives them a chance to experience it in residence and through learning. And what we've learned from our doctors is what they learn in medical school is what they want to use when they get out into the real world. And so familiarity inside of the education and teaching environment, I think, is very important to let them proctor and mentor, taking data from how experienced surgeons are diagnosing inside the platform and saying, what would you do if this was your patient with the same data and criteria? How would you diagnose that patient? And having them be able to see how it was done by an expert, I think, is a very valuable knowledge transfer. And so that's where it would begin.
So you start with education as your wedge to practitioner product. Okay.
That would be one of them, yeah.
And then what's the workflow like to create the 3D models? Can you ingest from existing, workflows and content and 3D scans like that? Or is it a new creation, new model, that you have to create here?
It's a bit of both. We work with any scanning modality, so anything that generates DICOM data, 3D DICOM data. So we can, what we're working on in the platform is to, and this is the secret sauce, I suppose, and the patentable IP is the algorithms that go into automating that. So segmentation, putting it into our platform, assigning textures, getting it that sort of photoreal look, encrypting it and sending it back to the end user. That's part of the platform build out. So that's what's going to take us the time, is actually building out that elegant architecture, which is sort of the base of Bioflight.
I think it's a foregone conclusion that doctors and surgeons will be using immersive 3D for patient communication and analysis like this. So it's exciting that it's going to happen within the next few years. Right now, I'm seeing a lot of anecdotal data, stuff like, the story of a girl's life being changed from this. Yeah. What I'm really curious to see is larger sample size data. Absolutely. So hundreds of doctors comparing this to the current solution. Can you talk a little bit about what trials you're running or doctors you're getting in front of right now?
Yeah. So what we've taken this out to, so we have a medical group in Louisiana that we're working with. So we have a radiologist department of 6, and we have a surgical group of about 18 doctors. And so they're ready for our beta when we're ready, because we understand we're going to need a lot of the clinical metrics and say, look, we've run this concurrently. The doctors are using this in clinical practice. Here's the data, here's the metrics, and here's what we're discovering from this group. And I appreciate it's a small sample size, but look where we are in VR. We got to start somewhere. So that's how we want to start it. And then we've also been to UCLA, to Keck, USC, to Duke. We're going to Duke in a month to just say, hey, what can we put in concurrent track for your residents that are going to help them? So don't replace it, but let's run it concurrently, and let's just see what the recidivism is, the retention, the idea that they're in something and experiencing something, and they feel like they're doing it and they're learning that way versus just watching a lecture. So.
One thing I'd be curious about is about the team. Like, why are you guys the right team to do this? What's your background, and how are you attacking this separately from others that are doing something similar?
Sure. So we come out of an entertainment background, and we have we're a mobile forward company. So our CTO is mobile. We feel like the Gear or Google Cardboard or other mobile HMDs are going to be how people experience VR first. That's not to say we don't love Oculus and Vive and all the other PC bases, but if you imagine it as a hub and a spoke. So we're putting together a team that is very comfortable building in those environments. And then we also have access to these doctors and medical experts, and that's a really, really tough thing for a startup to have. Getting a doctor to pay attention at Cedars-Sinai to anything you're building it's Herculean to get in there and get them to pay attention. So the fact that we have access to a hospital and to 2 doctor groups, and we can put this into a clinical application, is going to accelerate our knowledge both of how to build out the platform the right way for them, and also, back to your question, why it's effective and be able to prove it. All right, thanks guys.
All right, excellent. Very exciting stuff. We're going to move right along to Meta VR, Meta with 2 T's. Let's give them a warm round as they get to the stage. Come on up.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cici Morkoyanis, and together with these guys, Jacob Trefethan and Guillaume Sabran, I'm one of the co-founders of Meta, a platform, community, and basic toolset for 360 video. So as a team, we are 100% focused on user-generated 360 video and democratizing the process of creating and making even better 360 content. Why? Because last year, something very exciting happened. 360 video got a lot cheaper and a lot easier to produce. So what just 1 year ago used to cost thousands of dollars, a lot of expertise. If anyone here has tried to stitch a 360 video together, they'll know there's a lot of pain points associated with it. But today you can buy a consumer 360 camera like the Ricoh Theta S right here, which currently retails at $350, and shoot and capture your experience in 360. It's moving a lot quicker than even we had anticipated when we first started working on this a couple of months ago with Samsung, LG, and most major camera manufacturers working on their own 360 cameras. It's pretty exciting stuff. But amateur 360 creators, our target market, don't have a platform built to them. There's plenty of places they can share, but they're hungry for information and for community, and for basic tools that make the process a hell of a lot easier than it is today. And that's why we built Meta. Right now, Meta is a mobile-first product that allows people to discover 360 videos through our map, which is very popular, despite being an experiment we ran. View videos on any mobile browser, so we even beat some of the big guys to being able to view the stuff on iOS. And basic following and social features. Because as we know, having spoken to hundreds of individual 360 creators, what they care about so much right now is learning what other folks are doing, what tips and tricks they're getting up to, what tripods they're using, what stands they're using, what they're doing to combat stabilization issues. That's the version of Meta that's out right now. The version we built for VR looks quite similar. You enter a world map. Users from all over the world have uploaded 360 videos to our platform. And here is what a Meta profile looks like in VR. You just look at an image to enter it, and there you are immersed in what here is a 360 vlog, or vlog, as it's unelegantly being called currently right now. We're probably to blame a little bit for that. That is a vlog and a user's profile. However, shooting is just one side of the equation. In order to push this medium forwards, we need to lower the barrier to creation. And that's why at Meta, bundled into our core platform, we built the first basic drag and drop 360 video editor that's bundled into the whole process. So you just select your videos from your phone, and we built a number of features that are really aimed specifically at issues that 360 creators experience. So trimming emerging files, setting the initial orientation of your video so that you can choose where your viewer is looking. There we go. And adding text. So the ability to have multiple layers on top of a video is something we've been focusing a lot on. Because at the moment, you probably may have seen the kind of New York Times' videos or any other 360 video online where they have titles and subtitles like all around, left and right, to make sure you don't miss anything. But on Meta's proprietary player, with our proprietary format that comes out of our editor, you can have layers that float on top, which means you can do a lot of exciting things. Just use your imagination and imagine the awesome stuff you could do if you allow layers to float freely on top of 360 content. And this is a hell of a lot easier than existing editing solutions. So firstly, our target market is amateurs. Some of them right now are struggling to use software like Adobe Premiere, which is expensive and technical, to do basic things like resetting orientation or adding text that's actually wrapped with 360. We've made what used to take a couple of hours, take a couple of minutes with our editor, which is extremely exciting. And even better, it's proprietary, which means that our creators are some of them locked into our platform. Lots of strange things are happening. Remind me later. Thank you. So our tools have been very successful in getting 360 creators to come to our platform, but ultimately the tools are just a growth hack. We want to stay for the community. And we've seen extremely positive results from our beta test with a couple hundred creators on board. We've seen them exchange more than 9,000 messages between each other, swapping tips, validating the fact that these 360 creators want to be part of a community where their peers are creating and sharing videos. They're spending an average of 9 minutes 30 on the platform, which is high at a stage where we're not optimizing for that. And they're coming on an average of 3 times a week to check out new videos, to see who's liking their comments, with 25% monthly retention. So we're getting there. And the reason why we're focusing so much on community is that we truly believe the 360 video space is about community and not really about tech. A lot of people can build this stuff, and not a lot of people can build the community. That's what I think that our team does particularly well. We deeply care about these creators' needs. We talk to tens of them every single day, and we're learning extremely quickly. We have our ears to the ground, we know what's coming next, and we're excited about building not a platform, but a home for 360 video. Thank you very much.
Great job, despite the technical difficulties. But
Sorry.
one of the things you kind of alluded to, 360 video platform for user-generated content. It's, again, you're competing against big players like not just Facebook and YouTube, but even companies like VRideo, and they've been looking at this space for a while too, and they've amassed lots of 360 video content. How do you compete? What's your focus? What's differentiated with you guys?
Sure. So right now we are focusing a lot on these basic creation tools in the editor, which we're seeing being a very, very good way of getting these people to come to us initially. So the promise of being able to add text, which to those of you who aren't 360 creators may not seem that important, but if you go through YouTube and Facebook and look at the videos, so many of them have like really crappy text they've been trying to edit using existing software. And the idea that there's a tool set they can use that's just for them. It's not about something fancy. It's not video stitch. It's not color. It's not something for high-end professionals. It's for them. Is very appealing. And the second question to that, well, they come for the tools. We want them to stay for the community. Little Star and Video and others are doing a really great job. But most of them are focusing, most of the VR-specific video platforms are focusing a lot on this premium content element, which I think is very important for full VR. We are not at all focused on getting content from big studios or working with media companies. Everything we do is focused on individual creators and solving their pain points. And that leads to a sense of authenticity that's kind of palpable for us. It's hard to quantify until we release the beta, but we feel there's something like, there's a soul to Meta that's for them, about them. That's one thing that will never change.
What are some of the emergent content types? Whenever new
Yeah.
platforms come out, there's sort of new things. Is it sort of like the gonzo crazy things, or exotic location, or just sort of the silly moments, kind of a la Snapchat? We're just wondering what's the feel of the community that's emergent.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two things that come out organically from the community, and then things that we actively feed back that we see working. So in the latter category, this vlog or vlog style content, which is deeply personal and usually involves an individual going to a travel location that's important to them, somewhere in their home, or simply days in the life. We have a couple of high students doing like, here's my day driving to school, and here's what it's like, and here are my friends. And that stuff is wildly popular and getting better over time. And that's something we are feeding back. So we actively reach out to creators who are doing something similar, and we say, why don't you try this? Why don't you check out this video? And that's really important. So that's another thing that we do to develop format. In terms of things that emerge most organically from the user-generated content community, it is spatially associated. It's fields, it's farmers going out to interview their cows, it's people going to places in Bali which they remember deeply. In terms of what's trending on other platforms, which we're less focused on, cars. You better believe it that more than 50% of the views that Facebook 360 videos have right now are on car-related content. And another one that's maybe a bit surprising is weather. So storm chasers, the storm chaser community, which has a very big following on YouTube and other platforms, has been using 360 video to chase storms. And this stuff is wildly popular, even when shot in extremely low resolution. People want that sense of the chase, that they can be there in the moment, they can analyze, oh, that cloud is moving there, and that's the content that really works particularly well. Yeah.
Is the content usually shot with stationary camera, or is the camera often moving as well?
Yeah, so what we see most frequently from people who've just opened the box and taken it out is holding it in their hands, and it becomes something of this this notion that we're speaking to someone, we're speaking to your audience, and the camera is another human being, which we love because we think this is ultimately all about a very human type of interaction. Another amusing kind of format vis-a-vis where the camera is held is people using selfie sticks and sticking it on top of their backpacks as they climb mountains, go on hikes. And it's quite a compelling vision to feel like you're a couple of feet above someone as they trek up Lake Tahoe or something. It's very interesting.
I really admire your relentless focus on community, and I think it's the way to have a successful alpha and successful beta. But in order to scale and compete with hundreds of thousands of users, it is about the technology. I think that's why YouTube carved out their niche in the market, because they had the best technology to view web videos at a mass scale. Can you talk a little bit about how you're going to compete with the big technology players when it comes to tech?
Yeah, sure. In terms of streaming technology, we've matched them currently, and we have some exciting ideas in the works for more adaptive streaming. The basic idea, which you may have heard, is that when you're not looking at an area, you don't need to, have that footage being streamed in high quality. You can wait until the viewer is moving more closely. A lot of people are working on similar things. The kind of more important part of our tech stack in terms of retention and lock-in effects is this proprietary format and player, which is all linked into this editor. So we believe if we can get there with extremely good editor that allows you to do things you just simply can't do anywhere else, because YouTube and Facebook, they're dealing with already edited videos that have content burned onto it. The title is there rather than free floating. Whereas because you can only play back that content on our player, there's a potential that if this becomes the main way to create this content, it will also become the main way to view this content, which is very exciting. And we love feedback on that as well, because that's something we've been working on.
And when are you releasing the beta?
Yeah, so it's currently open. Sorry, the beta is currently closed and invite only, and we'll be opening the beta 2 to 3 weeks. So after Digital Hollywood will be coming back. So you can actually go to metavr.com right now and sign up. If you just say that you have a 360 video when you sign up, you'll be moved up the wait list quite quickly. Wink, wink. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, and then now we're going to finish up with Vivid Vision. Let's give them a warm welcome to the stage as we change laptops. Here we go.
Hello, everyone. My name is James Blaha. I'm the CEO and founder of Vivid Vision. So what we do is we take new technologies like VR, like eye tracking, gesture tracking, new biosensors, and we make vision tests and treatments for both in the clinic but also at home. So we kind of got started on all this because I was born with a lazy eye. And so our first product is focused on treating and measuring lazy eye. So to give a little background on what that is, basically a child is born with one of their eyes a little bit blurrier than the other, requiring a higher prescription than the other. And so their brain learns to ignore their weaker eye. And even if you give them glasses later in life, their brain still ignores it. And so we've developed a system that provides incentives using VR, since we can render images to the two eyes differently, accurately, which can allow people with lazy eye to regain use of their eye and see in 3D for the first time. And so in my case, I went from having about 20/70 in my weak eye, no stereo, no 3D vision, to almost 20/20, a little better than 20/25 now. With almost normal stereo vision. And so in the last a little more than 2 years that we've been working on this, we've developed a product and launched it into the market. And so we are actually at the end of this month, we'll be in more than 35 clinics across the US, Canada, and Europe. What's typically done today is that people will patch the good eye. This has only been shown to work in kids. We're the first product to demonstrate effectiveness in adults. In our first study that we did in Europe, we showed that 60% of the adults using it improved between 1 and 3 lines on the acuity chart. So basically the acuity chart is that chart where you're reading the letters from top to bottom, and they get smaller and smaller and smaller. And so on that chart, people improved a pretty significant amount in just a few weeks. And so we've already had more than 1,000 patients treated. We have, over 100 emails from people telling us how it's affected their lives, how it's changed their lives. And to give just a quick example, we had someone who had tried to pass the driving test for 15 years. They tried 11 times, failing every time. They went to a clinic who had our software, and after a couple of months of using the software, they were able to finally pass the vision test for their driver's license. And so we're providing not just kind of a new sense for people, the sense of depth in 3D space, but also the ability to do things that they've always wanted to do that they weren't able to. So we've gotten a lot of press coverage. There's actually a great video that Time produced on us at the beginning of the year. I'd encourage people to check it out. If you just Google Time Vivid Vision, it should pop right up. So we've had a lot of interest, and our first stage was going to clinics and doing research. So publishing research, going through clinics, getting feedback from doctors. Our second stage is releasing a home version, so people can actually do this without having to go into the clinic 2 or 3 times a week. We've had interest, thousands and thousands of signups, purely organically. We're not throwing any advertising or anything at it. And we're preparing to launch our home version later this year, which is our next big step. So we're continuing to do research with our collaborators at UCSF, at Berkeley, University of Geneva, at SUNY, and we're studying different things. So each one of these studies kind of targets a different aspect of vision. And so we're really looking at what we've built as a platform to measure what vision, to get a profile of someone's vision and to track how it changes over time. And so we're continuing to develop new vision tests and treatments on top of our platform, and doing research is always our first step. So now, since we have our first initial product for lazy eye in clinics, and we're preparing to release our home version of that, we're also looking at other areas to expand our platform to. A couple of the big areas are other binocular vision issues, which we've actually already expanded to. So not just lazy eye, but also convergence insufficiency, which is basically an issue where you can't point both of your eyes at the same place at certain distances, which is actually quite common. Up to 20% of all people have at least some convergence insufficiency. We're also looking at vision enhancement. So we can take someone's vision, an athlete, a surgeon, someone who really depends on having high quality vision, and improve it for those tasks. We're also looking at neuro rehab, so people who have traumatic brain injury, people who have strokes, brain tumors, their vision is often affected. And so we can do vision therapy along with their physical therapy for these patients to help improve their vision after their brain has been injured. And then the final big area that we're looking at is vision testing. So we really think that the current paradigm where you go into the doctor, the eye doctor, once every, how many years?
I haven't been in 8 years.
Once every 8 years. And that's your one data point. And they don't even measure a lot of things that might be important, that could tell you if you might be developing glaucoma or other kind of serious issues. And particularly with glaucoma, it matters a lot to catch it early, because it's more treatable the earlier you catch it. And so we're looking at using, Android-based phones, VR headsets, so you could play, a 5-minute game once a week and have this profile going over a long time of all of how your vision is changing over time. So and your doctor can, you can go take that to your doctor and say, look, my field of view is this, and now I'm seeing this, and they might do a more detailed test. So we're really looking at increasing the amount of data that's recorded about vision by orders of magnitude. So we are, currently looking for partners to reach all of these people at home who have lazy eye, and also to really begin expansion into these other important visual issues.
This is fantastic, and why I love virtual reality so much. I think you're using VR to solve a really finite problem, and it's working, and you're proving it, and you're getting it in front of doctors and patients, and making it happen. So I definitely applaud you there. We're really interested to figure out how it's going to penetrate, the go-to-market strategy, and how you're going to get pushback, because anytime you're trying to deploy software or hardware into a stodgy market, you're going to see pushback. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing from adoption perspective and how you're creating rebuttals for that?
Yeah, so we've spent a lot of time really thinking about the business model here, because I think there's a lot of moving parts. It's not an easy, it's not kind of as simple as putting up a website and selling something to people. And so what we're looking at is having a platform where patients can come to us, sign up, say, I think I might need this. We will connect them with doctors who have our system in their clinics, who know how to treat people with our system. Online, the doctors can do a consultation, which we'll pay them for. So we're offering doctors a way to make money. And the patient will pay us, and included in the fee will cover all of the consultations with the doctors and the vision therapists. And so we're trying to make sure that a doctor is always paying attention to the patient, has access to all their data, is the person in charge of setting up their treatment plan, but also that people can actually do it in an affordable way in their home. Most people either don't have the time to go in 3 times a week or the money. And so we can solve that problem, but still make sure that people also want to know a doctor's paying attention to them and that they're doing it right and that the system's set up correctly. And so I think we've kind of landed on a way of doing this where everyone benefits.
Are you going for FDA regulatory approval, and does this qualify for insurance reimbursements?
So we're currently 510K exempt, which means we have to register with the FDA, we have to follow quality control guidelines, we're open to being audited. But to sell the product to clinics, as long as we're not making a diagnosis, which we don't have to because the diagnosis is often there since the person was a kid, then we don't have to go through the higher level. But to get reimbursement, we do, and that's part of what our plan is for the next year or two, is to do a much larger, several hundred-person, multi-site study that lays the groundwork for going through FDA approval, so we can make stronger claims in our marketing, and so that we can go down the road for reimbursement, which will take time.
Sure. So just following up on that, like, when will the clinical trials take place? How long will it take? What's that kind of process that you're seeing?
Yeah, so our pilot study, took place a little more than it ended a little more than a year ago. It started almost 2 years ago. Our second study started a year and a half ago, and we're planning to publish later this year. So this larger study, depending on kind of what happens over the next few months, we're expecting will probably take something like two years before it's done, 2 to 3 before it's done and it's published.
Great job. All right. Thank you.
Excellent. That about wrap things up. I want to thank our panelists and our presenters. Give them a warm round of applause. Definitely appreciate that. It's great. Thank you.